Hi, welcome to the show. Thank you for joining today. I'm here with Sinha, the CTO of TransferWise. TransferWise is an international money transfer platform that moves $4 billion a month across 49 countries. Harsh Sinha is the CTO who provides oversight to 250 engineers at TransferWise. He's a forward-looking technologist and has provided oversight to large teams at various Fortune 500 companies in the past, like eBay and PayPal. Harsh, thank you so much for joining today and providing us insights into various top five banking and fintech trends. So, could you tell us a little bit more about yourself and what motivated you to get into this business?
Me. I'm an immigrant by into the United States, and I've lived an immigrant's life for a while. So I've actually lived and worked across 4 countries in my life. And over the time growing up, I have seen the problem of how hard it is to manage your finances across borders. People are getting more and more global and more mobile. People are traveling more. People are traveling to different countries to go to college, go to work, sending money back home to support family. But the money kind of tends to get stuck into the countries that the money is earned in or remains in. So the global finance market has not changed a lot, and the global money transfer market hasn't changed a lot in the last 150 years, if you look at it. And the way TransferWise is looking to solve the problem was very unique. The way we do it is by integrating directly into the local banking systems of each country. And that allows us to provide this service for very cheap and give you the exchange rate, which is the exchange rate you see in Google, the only company that does that in the world. But the fairness, the idea that you can see what you get before you get the transaction through, was one of the big things that resonated with me, because I've seen a lot of people lose a lot of money and moving money abroad. So that was one of the biggest reasons, because it's a problem that I face myself. I have a lot of friends and family abroad, to the world. And I also think sending money and moving money should be as simple as sending an email. It should not be this hard to do what is basically moving bits around the world.
Right. So have you always been fascinated about finance and technology? And is that what helped you to discover these gaps in the market?
Yes. So I have been in the technology world for about 17, 18 years now. I started off as an intern at eBay after I finished my graduation. And technology has always fascinated me. So I've been programming since I was a kid. And over time, I always loved to see how things work and build new things. And when the internet came around, obviously, it changed everything, and the way commerce is done, the way payments is done, how people interact. And I always wanted to be in the center of that to enable more innovation and build innovative products. And the reach that you can have now by building a product in the world is so much higher than we ever had 20 years ago. And that's what inspires me to build something which billions and billions of people will use around the world.
So in our off-recording conversations, you mentioned you oversee a team of about 250 engineers across the world. Could you share some stories about anything interesting or funny that has happened since you started leading these teams?
Oh, wow. It's we've seen a lot of growth in the last 4 years, TransferWise. So we're now moving about $4 billion per month, and saving our customers about $4 million a month in savings if they were using us versus their banks. And we serve about 49 countries. That's a pretty big global financial product to build. And our engineering team has also grown from 40 engineers to about 250 engineers. And as you can imagine, we do a lot of interviewing and a lot of work remotely. So we have a lot of teams distributed. So the whole challenge of working across a distributed setup can be very interesting, given how many times, I don't know how we haven't, as a technology industry, solved video conferencing yet as a problem. I think some of the companies now, VR companies, are doing a better job at it, but it still seems that the technology has not come ahead as far as it could have been, given how distributed teams are. But overall, I think that my biggest stories are less about engineering teams, but more about how our customers pop up in all over the place. So one of my favorite stories is I was standing in line to board a plane in Germany, and I was flying to the UK, and one of the people in front of me, a lady, was trying to convince her friend who moves money between Europe and the UK to use TransferWise. And she was amazing how well she was selling TransferWise, like convincing her that she should stop using a bank and she should use TransferWise, how much money she would save, she gets the perfect exchange rate. And I think our marketing team would have been proud because I was amazed that this is happening, and it happens a lot as we've grown over the years that we randomly see people start talking about us. It just happened that we were sitting side by side in the plane, and then she found out where I worked, what I did, and the first thing she said was that she would like to have a debit card, that she could access her funds all over the world as she travels. And lo and behold, 2 years later, we built that, and that's kind of a cool story. She was one of the first beta customers.
So have you seen that changing market and consumer dynamics have had huge impact on the way your business model is and how you are changing the way you offer your services to the clients?
Yeah, I mean, finance in general has changed quite a bit over the last decade, I would say. Even in my time at eBay and PayPal and even at TransferWise, I've seen the expectation of what companies can do and what financial companies can do grow from the consumer perspective. So to give you an example, the expectation right now from consumers, from their mobile experience, financial apps is much higher than it ever has been, ever in the history of, even after the smartphone was launched, right? And you can see that, I believe if you look at the future, banks and financial institutions that actually create consumer experiences will have a very, very big edge, and consumers will go to them. And that expectation has changed a lot from what it used to be, say, even 3 years ago.
So in your view, what are the top 5 fintech and the banking trends that you see or for the upcoming years?
Yeah, so there's a few of them. I think, as I just said, consumer experiences will continue to evolve, and banking applications or banks or financial institutions that don't have great consumer experiences will fall behind. And we're seeing this with a lot of neobanks. We're seeing this with a lot of banks just online. But I think especially on mobile, your experience has to be really, really good. So instead of going to a physical branch, now your physical branch is in your pocket, and that's with your smartphone, right? People are managing all the finances on the phone. So that's one where I think if banks without a great consumer experience will lag behind or die. Second, I think is overall financial services industry is going to get Amazoned. I guess basically what happened to the e-commerce industry and retail industry is what's happening in financial services now. Costs of delivering these services are going lower and lower and lower. And whether it is how you get a mortgage, whether it's how you invest your savings, how you get brokerage account, how do you move money abroad, all of these services are breaking up into verticals as opposed to being bundled by one large bank. Let's say 10 years ago, you'd go to Bank of America and get all these services. Now you pick one service for each of these verticals. And each of them, these services, is really putting the pressure on price and delivering a great experience at low cost. And they don't come with the overhead of having a lot of physical space, and the way they do KYC and the way they build the experience is driven by technology as opposed to process, which leads them to have much, much lower costs. So I think that's going to happen more and more. The third thing we'll see, especially in the US, I think the US has been lagging behind on this as compared to other parts of the world. Real-time payments is hopefully finally going to be a reality. So I think in the next 3 years, we'll have a replacement of some sort of our antiquated and old ACH system, which has been around since the 70s. It's very slow, it's prone to fraud, and it's very insecure. And real-time payments should become a reality, hopefully, in the next 3 years in the US, which will basically give us instant payments. So bank-to-bank or deposits will be instant, as opposed to waiting 1 to 3 days right now. And then you'll also see privacy and cybersecurity starting to play a much, much bigger role. So there will be more breaches, whether we like it or not, because hackers are getting sophisticated, and our systems are catching up. A lot of financial institutions are going to spend a lot of money making sure that customers' data is secure and safe. And just good, that's part and parcel of building the business. It's not a side thing to do. And I also think regulators are going to put more pressure through regulation to make sure, the industry is catching up and making sure consumers' data is kept well. And we are seeing this in Europe with GDPR. We are seeing this in the US with the New York DFS, putting in regulations around cybersecurity.
Right. So yours is a money service business, right? If I would say that correctly,
Yeah.
qualify as a money service business, and you have to be compliant to a lot of AML, BSA regulations as well. So being a technology firm, what practices do you put in place for you to be able to comply to those regulations and at the same time innovate the cross-border remittances on a real-time basis?
Yeah, so actually regulations are good to a large extent. Like, they are there to help the customer, and if the customer is helped,
Yeah, I'm glad you say that.
businesses are there to help the customers, right? So it is very, very important that we take our customers' trust that they give us and the data and the money, and we make sure that we handle it well. There's a lot of innovation actually happening in the KYC space, and that's driven by both, again, technology firms coming in and interpreting the regulations and applying technology processes around them to make things more automated. With advances in technology overall, we use machine learning algorithms, which are evolving with every transaction that's coming in to scale it up to find fraudulent transactions and look at new routes where things could be fishy. And that has evolved so much more than, say, even 15 years ago, where a lot of these processes in banks were manual. And there's still a lot of banks which run these in a manual basis. So I think technology firms are at an advantage when you look at these regulations and interpret them in such a way that you can use technology to drive fast innovation and keep the costs low.
That's a fantastic point. So to wrap this up, I just wanted to ask, what is your favorite life lesson quote and favorite book that you could recommend to the listeners?
Oh, wow. So Theodore Roosevelt has a great quote that I like, which is, look up to the stars, keep your feet on the ground. And I think that's a pretty inspiring quote, to always look forward and be ambitious, but never forget where you came from. Mm-hmm. And for a book, Outliers is a pretty good book, I would say. So Outliers is one that you should definitely read.
Okay. Thank you so much for your time today, Harsh. It was a pleasure talking with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Thanks. Take care.